Most of us are already familiar with the two more famous cannabinoids within cannabis. That's CBD and THC. While these two cannabinoids are useful, other cannabinoids have a lot to offer as well. CBC, or cannabichromene, is one of many cannabinoids that still hasn't had any limelight exposure. Let's compare these two cannabis compounds, the similarities they share, and the differences that they have. I'm Dale Hewitt, founder and CEO of New Phase Blend CBD Company, and today we're going to talk about comparing CBD and CBC. While these cannabinoids may look similar from the outside looking in, there are a lot of differences. Since the Farm Bill of 2018 passed, CBD has received a vast majority of the media attention. CBN, CBG, with their non-psychoactive properties, quickly followed and are also available in the marketplace now. If interested, we have another article on comparing CBN and CBD that you can check out by clicking the link in the blog. This just goes to show the speed at which research has been conducted since industrial hemp was decriminalized. CBD will follow in these footsteps, I'm confident. Let's talk about a short history of CBC. It's completely understandable if you haven't heard about cannabichromene or CBC. It was discovered in 1966 by doctors Mechoulam and Gaoni. CBC hasn't received too much attention to date. However, it's a prominent cannabinoid that has been considered for use because of its potential therapeutic benefits. When discussing CBC and CBD, you need to keep in mind that cannabichromene is quickly emerging as one of the popular cannabinoids of recent times. CBD, on the other hand, remains just as prevalent, if not more so, than THC. A study in 1981 assumed that CBD was the second most abundant compound in the cannabis plant, even exceeding the quantities of CBD. If this is true, then we desperately need to understand how to develop a CBC-rich strain and determine the medicinal properties if they exist. CBC gained traction right after the distinction was made between CBD and CBG. That being said, there still aren't any cannabis sativa strains that highlight very high concentrations of CBC. As we've seen with CBD, though, that could very well change and change fast. High CBD strains are now famous, and 20 years ago, they just weren't. Let's talk about extracting CBC. Like other cannabinoids, CBC is commonly mistaken for CBD. CBC is a different compound and has a unique chemical structure, as you can see in this picture. Also, CBC exerts other effects when compared to CBD. We'll get into those later on. The primary source of extracting CBC is via CBGA, or cannabidrolic acid, instead of processing the hemp flower or portions of the hemp plant. Cultivators need to do this since they cannot count on harvesting high CBC yield strains. CBGA is a stem cell compound that's a precursor to many different cannabinoids. THC, CBD, CBC, they all share the same origin of formation, which is cannabidrolic acid. CBG converts and produces CBC in two different forms by means of an activated enzyme process. According to pharmacology and drug discovery, enzyme activation can be accelerated through biochemical modification of the enzyme, or through low molecular weight positive modulators. What are some potential benefits of CBC? CBC has become a source of attraction in the medical field because of its potential therapeutic effects, just like CBD, CBN, and CBG. Plus, as a bonus, CBC is non-psychoactive. And these types of compounds are always preferred in the medical community because it eliminates the potential of physical addiction. The medical benefits of CBC are quite promising, but they need a bit more research. The cannabis plant generates CBGA, which then turns into three significant cannabinoids: CBD, CBC, and THC. There's a little more to it, but that's all we're going to cover for now regarding CBGA. The cannabis sativa plant is full of useful cannabinoids, and existing chemical research proves this claim. When talking about CBC and CBD, scientists have discovered CBC's potential value and have identified a few potential benefits of this cannabinoid. Let's talk about a study on CBC and the treatment of cancers. In 2006, CBC was first researched to proclaim its potential benefits for cancer during a study to understand the effects of cannabinoids on tumor size and cancer progression. In 2012, a breast cancer study was conducted, again, including anatamide and CBC in its trials. CBC has convinced scientists that it is worth investigating because of its potential cancer-fighting and pain-relieving qualities. There is no further research present in this regard to understanding the relation between CBC and cancer. That is what makes it challenging to evaluate this cannabinoid's potential effect on cancerous cells. I'd like to talk now about some studies on CBC for neurological health. A study made on CBC in 2013 showed CBC's potential effects for promoting adult neural stem progenitor cells, or NSPCs. These cells are an essential part of the brain because they convert into astroglial cells. Astroglial cells handle the passage of neurotransmitters everywhere in your brain and nervous system. The strength of these cells prevents the risk of Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative effects. In this area, CBC has given the green light for further research in improving neurological health. There's also some research about CBD and pain relief and anti-inflammatory effects. Cannabinoids interact with different receptors located in our bodies. For example, the TRPV1 receptor is responsible for controlling the feeling of inflammatory pain in the human body. CBC, in initial research, has shown that it has a higher chance of interacting with the nervous system's TRPV1 receptor than CBD. It also interacts with the CB2 receptor, and based on this research, CBC came out as an effective pain reliever. In another study, Turner and El-Soli concluded anti-inflammatory activity was evaluated. In both tests, CBC was superior to the other product used. It appears that CBC may help in relieving the pain related to arthritis and many other conditions. Again, we really need more research. So, let's talk about wrapping things up with CBC versus CBD. CBC, along with THC and CBD, is one of the most prevalent compounds in cannabis. All of the potential benefits mentioned above about CBC are based on limited research, which is still not enough to make any medical claims. It is still too early to stamp out CBD's effectiveness for use as a cancer treatment or any other ailment. CBC may have the potential to stand out for a cancer treatment, and in this area, CBC could distinguish itself from CBD. These are two cannabinoids which might share a few similarities when it comes to potential neurological health benefits. CBD has been widely studied for its potential neurological benefits, while CBC still lacks the research. Another difference between the two that received attention is cannabichromene's visible affinity for the nervous system's TRPV1 receptor. CBD also interacts with that receptor. However, CBC shows an approximately equal affinity for both your TRPV1 and 5-HT1 alpha receptors, which play a role in neuropathic pain. Researchers expect CBC to be a more powerful and effective choice over CBD for inflammatory pain. I think we should wait and see what future studies show. When we discuss CBC and CBD, both of these cannabinoids have similarities and potential medicinal benefits. For instance, people in need of better sleep concentrate on hemp products with a high amount of CBD or even some CBN. In contrast, people suffering from inflammatory pain often opt for compounds like CBC. Focusing on one particular cannabinoid doesn't mean you have to exclude the other compounds, by the way, as there is not a single cannabinoid that isn't potentially beneficial in some way. CBC hasn't been the center of any massive research yet. However, a few smaller studies have shown this cannabinoid's medical potential and brought more attention to further research. Scientists are already claiming that focusing on this compound as a significant research area will open otherwise closed doors in the medical and pharmaceutical industry. The sheer depth of the compounds within the cannabis plant is just astounding, and it might be confusing for you, but that's okay. Continue to watch our videos or read more of our articles by New Phase Blends to keep up to date with information similar to the one we just talked about, which is CBC versus CBD. Stay tuned for more.